Now, there are some questions in life which can be answered quickly. No real thought required. Simple yes, no options. Others might involve a longer period of time. Perhaps a pleasant exploration of the possibilities over a drink or a meal. Philosophical inquiry, searching for the meaning of life, the universe, everything. But there's one set of questions which brook no hesitation, which demand instant application to the task in hand. And those are the ones concerned with helping with my daughter's homework, and which usually extend to occupy most of the available evening. Which is how I found myself pondering the big question of how can maps help us, as an accompaniment to trying to create with her a schematic map of our house and garden. Now, actually, it's easy to take maps for granted, but we'd be pretty stuck without them. Maps have been one of the most important human inventions for millennia, allowing humans to explain and navigate their way through the world. They seem to have been independently invented by many cultures across the globe, and they've been around a very long time. Fragments etched on tusks or scratched on stones dating back 25,000 years or more all point to maps as something important. Which makes sense from an evolutionary point of view. It would help our survival a lot if we were able to chart where to find food, mark dangers, settle boundary disputes, especially if we could share that knowledge with others. And it's not just maps of where we've been and how to get back there. Maps also drove exploration and enabled trade. Phoenician sailors way back 3,000 years ago were managing long trips like discovering a way round Africa, and the explosion of global trade and imperial expansion owes a great deal to explorers like Magellan, Columbus, da Gama, and so on. Their voyages showed us that A, the world isn't flat with an edge you can fall off, and B, that there are impressive profits to be made if you can reliably head for, and more importantly, come back from, exotic destinations like the Spice Islands. Maps were at the heart of this, and one reason why the Portuguese eventually lost their early advantage to the Dutch East India Company was the acquisition, by fair means or foul, of the key maps that covered the journey. But maps aren't just passive guidebooks either. They can certainly help us get from A to B reliably and repeat the trip. But they also act as warnings, signposting where to go, but also what to avoid and why. From those old "Here be dragons" markings on medieval charts through to today's detailed lines of demarcation around danger areas. And maps can set the rules of the game. Much of the work of early cartographers was charting not only the physical layout of land and sea, but the political and economic one. Wars have a nasty habit of involving incursions into territory owned by someone else, and maps can continue to play a role in this political landscape. For example, redrawing electoral boundaries isn't simply a psephological exercise, it's basically a power game. So, maps matter, and as my daughter's homework underlines, we need to learn to work with them, even in an age of GPS and automated guidance. Now, what has all of this got to do with innovation? Well, quite a lot, actually. Maps and map making provides a powerful metaphor for much of what we do when we try to manage the uncertain journey which innovation involves. There's probably hundreds of applications of the idea, but here are 5 which spring quickly to mind. Number 1, navigating uncertainty. Now, innovation's all about uncertainty. It's not simply planning, it's a probe into unknown territory. Even incremental innovation, effectively doing what we do but a little better, even that has its surprises, like the diversions we might need to make on a well-used map because of roadworks or repairs. And when we think about radical innovation, we're certainly in the realm of high uncertainty, trying to feel our way through the fog. So making even the crudest of sketch maps for ourselves might help, and using charts, begged, borrowed, or stolen from other voyages would be a recommended strategy. After all, someone else may have made a similar journey, and there might be clues in their codified experience, a sort of TripAdvisor resource. Or for those of you not yet familiar with the classic book, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, a guidebook plus maps with the important reassurance, "Don't panic," scrawled across the front cover. Pretty useful recipe for innovation management. Now, maps can warn of topographical challenges like rivers to be crossed or mountains to be climbed, and in similar fashion, making maps of the wider context in which our innovation is going to emerge will be helpful. For example, a healthcare startup needs to map regulatory challenges, market demands, and technological barriers. So understanding these elevations and obstacles could help that company prepare strategies to overcome or navigate through them. Now, maps come in many flavors, including exotics like heat maps, which can be useful in terms of analyzing energy consumption, for example. I got that one from Lara's homework book as well. It's the same thing with innovation. Sometimes heat maps can help focus attention on key areas for development. For example, in identifying market trends, customer preferences, areas ripe for innovation, hotspots. Starbucks uses this kind of approach to analyze customer behavior and preferences in different regions. And this data helps the company identify hotspots where certain products or services are more popular. And that allows for targeted marketing and developing new product offerings. For example, they identified a growing trend in mobile ordering and payment, leading to the successful rollout of their mobile app, which has significantly enhanced customer convenience and engagement. And especially in service innovation, journey maps can help visualize the customer experience, detailing each touch point and interaction that a customer has with a product or service. And this helps in refining and improving the innovation to better meet those customer needs. Airbnb uses customer journey mapping to enhance the user experience for both hosts and guests. By mapping out each interaction a user has with the platform, from searching for a property to post-stay reviews, Airbnb can identify pain points, opportunities for improvement. Once again, this customer-centric approach has led to new features like the Superhost program, and its streamlined booking processes which significantly enhance overall user satisfaction. Now, the second way in which maps have relevance to innovation is in passing on the message. Now, innovation is a process. Anyone might get lucky once, but the real skill lies in being able to repeat the trick, to recognize that it can be a managed process which depends on more than just luck, for which we need a map, some codified representation of what we've learned about how the process works and what to do about it. Which is good news for people like me, because our role has been to try and make sense of the 100+ years of research and the reported experiences of tens of thousands of people, to try and make sense of that, to detect patterns, make maps of how the process operates and how it could be managed over time, what to do and what not to do, much in the manner of those early "Here be dragons" charts. Now, we've come a long way. Our maps of the process are well documented in textbooks, consulting offers, even at the heart of an international standard, 56001, which covers innovation management. So we can pass on the knowledge we've acquired to others. A third area where it's relevant is in forecasting and backcasting. Now, smart players of the innovation game don't just grope their way through the fog and hope. They make use of futures tools to help develop a strategy, a map of where to go and what to do next, which steps to take. Now, that's actually a two-step process. Forecasting involves looking forward, imagining and engaging the help of others to make more than random guesses, weaving them into coherent pictures of future scenarios. But it also involves backcasting, working out how to get there from here. Where and how do we start? And that process is called road mapping. For a reason. It's all about making relevant maps to guide our journey and our resource commitments into the future. You don't get to launch a major new piece of software or a radical alternative product by simply pressing the Go button. It involves careful planning of each stage, from exploratory research through prototype development, beta testing, market launch, post-launch support. Each stage has its specific goals, timelines, and checkpoints, and they help the team stay focused and aligned within their objectives, looking to that future by following the roadmap. Now, a fourth area where there is relevance is simulation and pivoting. Drawing a map in the abstract without understanding the conditions on the actual ground itself is not a good approach to navigation, on account of the fact that maps are not the actual territory, they're a representation of that reality. Now, plenty of people have commented on this problem, from the Prussian general von Moltke with his famous "No plan survives the first contact with the enemy," through to boxer Mike Tyson's more succinct version, "Everybody has a plan till they get punched in the face." So, we need the ability to revise our maps en route once we're on the ground, improve them, and press forward in a mode which Rita McGrath calls discovery-driven planning. Map making on the fly. Now, these days, this principle lies at the heart of agile innovation and the lean startup model. Innovation involves testing assumptions, learning from feedback, and course correcting. That's the innovation equivalent of GPS telling us off route, recalculating. Now, for example, Netflix leverages real-time data analytics, as akin to GPS, to continuously adjust its content strategy. By monitoring those viewer preferences and engagement in real time, they can quickly pivot their content offerings, invest in new shows, even decide on cancelling underperforming series. Now, the good news here is that we've got a rich set of tools to help our adaptive cartography, simulations, failure mode effect analysis, pre-mortems, all sorts of things. They allow us to explore and change course before we actually hit the iceberg emerging through the fog. We can simulate ahead of actually making our journey. And an extreme variant of such map making is the idea of escape maps, quickly constructed escape routes developed to navigate out of a crisis. For example, Toyota's response to widespread recalls due to safety issues back in 2010 was to develop a crisis management plan, a map, to address these problems and communicate transparently with customers to implement quality control improvements. Now, that escape map helped Toyota navigate through that particular crisis and restore customer trust and reinforce its safety standards and reputation. But it also provided a resource on which they could build in the face of future challenges, like the supply chain disruptions caused by earthquakes. Now, one other area of importance is cooperative cartography. Now, innovation's a multiplayer game. In today's borderless digital world, that's become more relevant than ever. Open innovation is all about collaboration and consortia, finding and building an ecosystem in which all players bring something to the party. And when it's well orchestrated, they can create emergent properties. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And a key piece to this puzzle lies in the shared maps which they use for navigating their collective journey. Now, those maps might be built around something abstract but compelling, a vision into which people can buy, something which focuses their collective energies and points the way forward towards Treasure Island with enough for everyone. Platform businesses offer a good example of such collaboration, where platform owners orchestrate players across a multi-sided market. But such arrangements depend on having clear maps of where and how shared value is created. But a big part of the shared value ecosystem story is the fact that the rules of the game are made explicit and become the boundaries and geography of the game. In other words, the map of where and how this innovation game is going to be played out. Now, that's often an underestimated aspect of the innovation story, but it highlights the key role of cartography. Who's making the maps which set out the context within which shared value through innovation might be created? Amazon, for example, might see a future for drone delivery and be able to articulate the vision, engage technology companies, recruit drone pilots, all sorts of things. But that innovation will only work if a key cartographer, in that case the Federal Aviation Authority, adapts their tight control over airspace to permit it, which incidentally they have just done. Or Malcolm McLean's revolution in world trade, which is catalyzed by his containerization innovation, might have run aground at an early stage. His voyage might have involved ships stuck in port if he hadn't managed to find a way of working alongside the unions who were key cartographers in that context. They shaped the rules of the game. Now, mobile money across Africa is nothing special. It's just how things work in that world, even as we still marvel at the power of smart transactions on our phones. This leapfrogging to a new financial world connecting millions of people has been enabled by innovations like M-Pesa and its lookalikes, and it's ushered in a quiet revolution. Right now, over half of the Kenyan gross domestic product runs across this M-Pesa mobile phone platform. But this massive social innovation, bringing banking and financial services to the unbanked, wouldn't have been possible without the active support and the smoothing of the pathway, the role played by the central bank. Their role as cartographers, supporting and promoting the innovation, has been central to its widespread adoption. Uber uses a topographical map approach to understand this regulatory, market and technological landscape when expanding its services globally. Each city, each country has unique regulations, market demands and infrastructure challenges. So by mapping these out and working with the cartographers setting those rules of the game out, Uber can try to tailor its strategies to navigate regulatory hurdles, optimize its technology for local conditions, and address market-specific needs effectively. So, maps matter in innovation, and the skills of working with them seem worth developing. In particular, 3 key skills ought to be at the fingertips of anyone working in the innovation space. First of all, map reading. If there's one thing we've learned in an era of GPS and navigational accuracy measured in millimeters, it's that the best maps in the world can still lead you into trouble if you don't know how to use them properly. GPS has an enviable track record of leading strangers onto rocks or to other unexpected places, one of which Ulysses' sirens or the Lorelei Rhine maidens would be proud. No, we need to learn to use maps intelligently, checking our position, adjusting, correcting course, pivoting with the map as a guide. Now, we know a lot about the innovation process, so whether you're a startup entrepreneur or a team inside an established organization, the journey to create value from ideas doesn't have to be a random one. Importantly, we have maps for many different contexts. It's not a case of one size fits all. There are maps that provide guidance for innovators working in the public sector or the not-for-profit world as much as for the commercial world. But we need to learn to read those maps intelligently. Second skill, map making. We need the skill of constructing storylines, roadmaps into the future, which provide us with key information at key stages on the journey we're going to take. Now, we can also use maps which others have prepared, but it's important to develop our own skills, just as our ancestors would have found ways to communicate what they were learning and embed them into rudimentary maps. So we need to embed key questions around which we need to explore and chart the evolution of any business model. It's a story which sets out where we're trying to get to, what we're learning on the way. And if we can engage others and recruit their questions, experience, and insight, we can develop our maps. And in fact, we can offer them for others to make use of. There's a booming market in offering templates for business models, which can be adapted and configured to suit. Now, the third area in which we need some skills is this theme of cooperative cartography. What we've learned is that scaling innovation involves building and managing an ecosystem. So finding out who are the key cartographers, the ones who shape where and when the maps are made or revised, that's critical. So, sitting on standards committees, working out product specifications might not sound the most inspiring innovation gig, but those standards matter. They're maps of the future game. And big bets get made on the way standards will evolve and the way they become accepted. Think of the VHS versus Betamax in the old days of videos, or more recently, the Blu-ray Sony versus Toshiba high-definition DVD wars and the billions of dollars that involved. But standards are only one part of the story. It's not just committee work. It's about engaging with cartographers, drawing them in, getting their support, their buy-in, their insight, and their influence. Think of an edtech solution which could transform the learning experiences of millions of children in rural Africa, and then try and introduce that without the support of the relevant Ministry of Education. Or try and fight some of the most powerful interests in trade unions or professional associations. Maybe wrestle with the regulatory thickets associated with trade bodies or government departments. Battle with the rules and those employed to make sure things are done by the book. It doesn't take long before you realize that most innovation, most changes don't take place on a blank canvas. They involve negotiating a way through all sorts of obstacles. For which geography, it would be helpful to have a map, but even more helpful to have a guide, someone who could help smooth or clear a path. So learning to identify and recruit cartographers to your value network is increasingly a key skill in scaling innovation for impact. So, back to our homework question. Can maps help us? Yes, in plenty of ways. In fact, we'd literally be lost without them. But the real question isn't so much about whether they can help us or not, but rather how we can best equip ourselves to create and use them.